The film begins with British writer Virginia Woolf putting stones inside her pockets before drowning herself. Laura Brown lives in 1951 in a wealthy Los Angeles suburb. Her husband, Dan Brown, is having a birthday. While he's at work, she makes a chocolate cake for him. Their son Richie asks if he can help her with it. As he sifts the flour, he wants to know why they are making the cake. "So Daddy will know we love him?" She answers yes. And then he asks, "He won't know it if we don't?" She answers him no. She is heavily pregnant with their second child. She is also reading a hardback copy of Mrs. Dalloway, considered Virginia Woolf's best novel. Clarissa Vaughn lives in modern 2001 New York and is planning a party for her prize-winning poet and close friend, Richard Brown. Rich has had AIDS for many years. He's a celebrated poet and Clarissa is his editor. Clarissa worries about Richard and cares for him like his mother. Back at home, when she is preparing for the party almost alone, she has trouble with her girlfriend Sally, who has been unfaithful to her for some time. Several people appear for the party: Clarissa's daughter Julia and the most cherished of Richard's ex-boyfriends, Louis, who has another relationship with a younger man but is still sad and melancholy. Back in the UK, Virginia has just started writing a novel. She and her husband, Leonard Woolf, have moved to a village outside London because London's hectic and frenzied life has affected Virginia's psychological health. She had tried to commit suicide twice and used to hear voices. Leonard is busy with his printing press business but watches over her tenderly. One sunny day they are visited by Vanessa, Virginia's sister, her two sons Quentin and Julian, and her daughter Angelica. They are talkative and full of life, but their visit causes some anxiety to Virginia. To have lunch and tea prepared as she wants, having to force the cook and main maid Nellie Boxall to travel to London to buy some things and then travel back is an ordeal to the lady of the house. Virginia has problems making herself obeyed by their servants, especially by pushy Nellie. In real life, many pages of Woolf's diary were about Nellie, a person she used to fear so much that she wouldn't even dare to give the sack. This time Virginia had to be obeyed. Angelica finds a dead bird recently deceased at the Woolf's garden. They bury it with much pomp, putting a bigger strain on Virginia's damaged emotions. At the end of the day, the four visitors return to London merrily and Virginia and Leonard stay home. Back in LA, Laura's friend Kitty stops by. Laura complains about the cake not turning out right for her husband's birthday. Kitty says she doesn't understand why and that baking is easy. Kitty then says it's okay, that everyone has different things they're good at. She is dressed perfectly and seems to have a perfect life. Laura learns that Kitty is about to have surgery, as she is seriously ill, so she can't have any children. Kitty starts letting her guard down and seems emotional over her problem. Laura and Kitty kiss each other. However, Kitty behaves and talks as though nothing has happened. After Kitty leaves, Laura throws the first cake away and makes a perfect one. Meanwhile, Richie is sitting quietly while he watches his mother. She looks at him and asks what? While he looks on, she then takes him to a neighbor's while she goes out, which Richie highly protests. She proceeds to drive around. She sees the sign for a hotel and decides to book in. There, she takes all the medicines she took from the cabinet in the bathroom of her home and puts them on the bedside table next to her. She puts herself on top of the perfectly made bed and reads Mrs. Dalloway but falls asleep while reading her book. For her, death is like a flood, a river overgrown that will drown her from under the hotel bed. Suddenly she wakes up. She has just decided to wait for her second child to be born, and then she will leave her family. When she returns home as though nothing special has happened, Richie knows she's lying. That night, Laura's husband dines with his family and eats the cake. He is a contented, quiet man who says that the cake is delicious and appreciates that Laura has done it. He talks of how perfect his birthday was, thanks to his family. In New York, Richard, Laura's older son, now a grown-up man, wants to skip the party. He tells Clarissa that she has been the only reason he had to live, but now, she must let him go. Clarissa is a lesbian but wonders if she is still in love with Richard. However, Clarissa cannot prevent Richard from jumping from the window. Instead of a party, she has to prepare for Richard's funeral, and Richard's mother, Laura Brown, appears. According to Julia, she has become a sweet old lady, not the monster as the late Richard Brown described her. Laura tells how she moved to Canada to lead an independent life as a librarian in Canada. Still, she won't apologize for the hurt she caused her family, because her pain doesn't make any difference now to her late husband who died of cancer, and her younger daughter had also passed. Virginia tries to run away to London, but Leonard catches her while waiting at the train station. Virginia talks to him, and Leonard can't put up with her anymore. He promises they will be back in London soon. As the audience knows, Virginia will end up committing suicide there, and that's how the film ends, as it has begun with Virginia Woolf committing suicide. In real life, she wrote some other novels after Mrs. Dalloway and before committing suicide.